So how would you weigh the concern over the tornado warnings and the tropical storms and all that come through the state versus Florida football fans' concern about the recruiting right now?
Uh, I would say there's, I, I don't know if concern is the right word because I think there's a little bit of apathy in there. I think they're kind of used to this is what they're going to get with Dan Mullen. It's going to be a class, if you want to use 24/7 or rivals or whoever you use rankings, it's going to be 8th through 12th recruiting class, and knowing that they're going to get developed. And will that be enough? History says that you got to have a lot of breaks bounce your way if you want to be able to consistently compete for an SEC national championship or anything like that. If you're not recruiting top five at year after year. So I think the fan base is kind of maybe getting used to it. We'll see where it ends up there. I will say, Mark, the coming off of June, especially early June, their early returns were good. There does seem to be a new vibe, but that doesn't necessarily mean the vibe will pay off. I mean, they've gotten a lot of 5 stars on campus. They've gotten a lot of highly rated guys on campus. But, you're still losing those state of Florida kids that are going out of state and going to Ohio State, Alabama, or whatever. But, we'll see where it ends up. There's still Walter Nolan's still out there, a big target for Florida. They're in the thick of it. I think if he was to pick now, if he was to pick a school right now, I'd say Florida would be the pick. But that's Michigan, Georgia, I think, are the top 2 competition there. And then, we'll see. That's the big Evan Stewart, wide receiver out of Texas as well. But look, these are out-of-state guys. I'm not talking in-state guys. I'm talking out-of-state guys that are highly rated that Florida has really, really good chances with. So we'll have to see where it ends up. But, Mark, it all comes down. Florida's just got to get better with the highly ranked kids in the state of Florida.
Yeah, so it's a battle on 2 fronts here because there's the monster in division, Georgia, Kirby Smart recruiting out of his mind again. And then there's that comparison that's got to go on, even though they're playing in a different conference, Miami and Florida State, the battle for the great players in arguably the best state in the country, right there with Texas, for those Florida players. So I'm sure your show gets lit up with, and the message boards and everything else, not just, again, trying to chase Georgia. And in a sense, it's not a chase. You beat them last year, but that's how it's viewed, chasing down Georgia from a talent perspective, but also staying ahead of Miami and Florida State. They're not in the best position in terms of where their programs are, but they both seem to have some juice, both Miami and Florida State.
Yeah, a lot of it's wait and see. Gator fans always point to, like, this is the same way we were talking about Tennessee last year and their top 5, top 10 recruiting class at one point. It crashed and burned. So, like I said, we know what Dan Mullen's going to do as far as his recruiting class and probably where it's going to end up. Florida fans, I think while FSU and Miami fans probably do want to bark and kind of brag a bit maybe about where recruiting's at for them right now, Florida fans are not worried about that at all, about what FSU and Miami are doing in the recruiting world. Right now it's results on the field are, at least compared to those 2 schools, are what you can point to. And until those 2 schools consistently, since Dan Mullen's been at Florida, since those 2 schools consistently do what Florida has done since Dan Mullen's been there, I think the fan base is pretty content on what comparisons are to those 2 schools right now. So, of course, you got to start somewhere, and especially what FSU's doing, coming off of Willie Taggart and Martin Norvell, his first year not being so successful his first year either. It is nice for, if you're a fan base, if you're a fan of that school, to see what recruiting is doing. And that probably is, it shows you the potential. It really shows the potential of what maybe Florida State can do. But I do think, Mark, I've always said, results on the field, that was a big thing about Dan Mullen when he come in. And, hey, if he starts winning, he'll start getting his recruits. Well, he's won, and recruiting's been about the same. I'm not so sure how much winning on the field can help recruiting. I do think losing can really hurt you in recruiting. Winning, I'm not so sure it pays off. Losing can hurt you a whole lot more in the recruiting world than winning can actually help you. So if FSU goes out there and wins a whole lot of games, they'll probably stay. They'll probably, well, they're not going to finish where they're at right now. That's just too much to ask. It's a very top-heavy class right now. You look at the depth of that class. their average would have to come way, way, way up to be up there with Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson in the end. But, you're probably looking at a top 15 class. But if they go out there and crash and burn and win 3 or 4 games, that class is going to crumble.
So when you look at Dan Mullen's recruiting efforts and not just the results of it being ranked A, B, and C in that 8 to 12 range, but more so the approach, where he's going, how does that differ from what we saw under Muschamp and McElwain?
Mark, I mean, you were in that market for a while in Mississippi State, Starkville, and I brought plenty of people on when Dan Mullen was hired at Florida. And what we are getting in recruiting is exactly what we were told we were going to get in recruiting. He's not going to go out there. He's not going to be this live, eat, breathe, and die recruiting machine. He's not going to be that. We were told that, and that's exactly what Florida has gotten. He's got some friends on staff, that some fan base part of the fan base would love to see him upgrade. John Hevesy in offensive line. Offensive line recruiting has not been great, and it kind of shows there at Florida. Running back recruiting, it's kind of different. I mean, you've been able to live through the transfer portal right there. And then high school recruiting, would you allot for it to be better at running back? Sure, but you've got Lorenzo Lingard, DeMarcus Bowman out of the transfer portal. I mean, Florida's going to be 5 deep at running back this coming up season. Recruiting at the running back position is kind of taking care of itself, even though you haven't really signed high school recruits. And then you made some changes on the defensive side of the ball from last year with Torian Gray and Ron English out, and now Wesley McGriff and Jules Montanar in. So you have some defensive changes there on the coaching staff, and you'll see if those pay off. But I think maybe keeping some buddies on staff and not being the live, eat, die recruiting machine that so many other cut guys are in the country. That's what Dan Mullen is known for. That's what we're going to get. He's going to be a developer. He's not going to go out there and I mean, I think it's a very brash approach to the way he handles recruiting. I don't think it's all lovey-dovey and wine and dine recruits. I think it's pretty straight to the point. It's just kind of the way Dan Mullen is as well. So we'll see if it pays off. I think it's an awesome case study. I mean, he's at a school where he can get enough talent to compete. Can he get enough talent to compete consistently? Can he go out there and when nobody's predicting Florida to win the SEC East this year, can he go out there and say, look, I can do it my way? And going into year 4, I'm not so sure when Dan Mullen was hired, we thought we would be asking ourselves that question still in year 4, but we are. I still don't think there's an ultimate answer for the way Dan Mullen coaches, Dan Mullen recruits, the way Dan Mullen develops. There's still an ultimate answer yet for how this is going to play out, ultimately in competing for SEC and national championships.